Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome back. It's Thursday. It's episode 61, and it's the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. Woo, happy belated Canada Day to everybody. I hope you all had an amazing Canada Day holidays and safe festivities, and happy early 4th of July to our American listeners out there and to my family that lives down there. Good luck in the chaos. I don't know how to celebrate theirs, really. I don't know how this one works. So good luck. Yeah. But the most important thing, people, is we got Geoff. My man Geoff is with us today, as always. Geoff, buddy, how you doing? How was your Canada Day?
Yeah, my Canada Day was good. I'm a little confused on July 4th. Good luck. I don't get it. What do you
I
mean?
don't know what to say, man. Like, they're in chaos. Man, Trump's big spending bill just got passed today, and there is a whole bunch of the poor mid and lower class is going to get eviscerated. The Medicare cuts, all of the cuts that have been passed. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into politics, but oh my God, the whole middle class and underclass, the disenfranchised. Oh boy, I truly, truly feel bad for these people. It is going to be a tumultuous next little bit over there. So good luck. Happy 4th of July, everybody. But I'm glad you had a good one, Geoff.
Yeah, I enjoyed Canada Day. What did we do? Christina and I went down to Cultus Lake, pulled out our lawn chairs, made some sandwiches, had a couple of bevies, and got third-degree burns.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, Michelle and I, we got ditched by the children. So
Oh,
we got, yeah, we got ditched by the children. So we hung out by ourselves. Our son, he was out at a party at his buddy's place, and our daughter was over at the fair in Cloverdale. So she was out hanging out with her friends, and then and then we went and picked her up at 9, and then Michelle and her went and watched the fireworks, and I stayed at home.
a
Yeah.
good place for you to be, nice and safe.
Well, listen, man. Yeah, listen. They went to Hillcrest Park to go watch the fireworks, so it's way far from a distance. And for me, I'm not a fireworks dude anymore. So it was a nice, quiet. I enjoyed the Canada Day festivities. The Rec Laws played. I did actually want to see that. I just didn't want to deal with that Canada Day crowd at 9 o'clock. That was going to be crazy. Too many drunkies out there for me, wobbling around and possibly throwing fists. And as I say, I'm too pretty to fight.
Yeah, that's
See?
not for you to do.
No, man. No, man. So I can't throw myself in that crowd, but I heard the Rec Laws did great. So I'm sure I'm glad it was an amazing show.
What exactly was it? Sorry.
The Rec Laws, they performed at the Canada Day Fair.
I must be getting old. Who are the Rec Laws?
The Rec Laws are a country group, very
Okay.
popular from here from here in BC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and in fact, they normally so the song that they play to the intro to the World Juniors every year, it's actually sung by the Rec Laws. Shout
Oh,
out to them again. Yes, they're
yeah.
amazing. They're an amazing group, Geoff. Love them.
And they're Canadian.
They're Canadian, right here, homebred.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I have some Spotify searching that I need to do.
yeah, they're super good, super good. So yeah, so they played at 9, and it was a great Canada Day, and we are now in July, and we've got the real estate statistics out, Geoff.
Do tell. Do
We
tell.
do. So that does now segue into our beautiful.
Did ya know?
So, did you know that despite the price drops, increased inventory, and the market practically waving a giant neon buy now sign, home sales in the Fraser Valley remain flat, Geoff? So, according to
That's what
the
I
Fraser
heard.
Yeah, so according to the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, there were 1,195 home sales in June, and that's up a thrilling 1% from May. So basically what happened was the market got out of bed, took one step, and called it progress.
Yeah. And may we
That's
have to
what happened.
remind ourselves that was from a 10-year low, correct?
Yeah, so I'm going to get into that. And let's keep in mind that this is the Fraser Valley stats. But I will say, because I don't have the Vancouver ones, but I do know from my colleagues I was speaking with, Vancouver was not any different than the Vancouver board was not any different than the Valley board over here. So here's the kicker. That number, so we talked about, right, being 1% higher than May. So that number is still 9% lower than last June and a full 33% below the 10-year average.
Wow.
Holy smokes. So it's going to get into a couple of comments later, which I love. So inventory is piling up. So I was saying last month, right, we were at 10,000 listings, which was ridiculous. We are now up to nearly 11,000 active listings, which is up more than 30% this time last year. So this is what I keep telling people. If you ever wanted options, congratulations. The market is literally a giant showroom.
Yeah.
That's one thing that buyers have always been saying. We want options. We're always so low inventory. We want options. We are literally a giant showroom now.
Yeah.
But so what people got to understand again is that sellers, once again, are not changing their prices. Prices are not softening, right? We are down 1.6% month over month in prices. Condos went down 1% or 1.2%, sorry. Townhomes were down 1%.
Yeah.
Right? So detached was 1.6, townhomes were down 1, and condos were down 1.2.
Yeah.
So again.
So what you're saying is it is definitely a buyer's market. There's a whackload of inventory, the most that we have ever seen for a very long period of time. And prices really aren't going down. So why are people sitting on the fence?
That's exactly it. So it's funny because I pulled out a couple of quotes from that the board had. So here's a quote. For buyers who can tolerate the current economic uncertainty, this market offers some very real opportunities. So I'm going to give everybody the real translation of that. That is, please, someone, anyone, buy something, please. That is what that means. So once again, I will repeat the quote. For buyers who can tolerate the current economic uncertainty, this market offers some very real opportunities. Again, very real translation. Please, someone, anyone, buy something real fast. And the board CEO has even floated the idea that maybe even some housing policies could be reevaluated. You know, the ones built from a different market reality. Like when people bought houses without needing a second income, side hustle, and a miracle. So they are literally, the board is now literally saying, we got to come up with another plan. Everybody gets it. Stuff's so too expensive. Nobody's buying this stuff anymore. We got to do something, pretty please.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at, people. That's where we're at. We've got a general vibe of let's wait and see what happens. Spoiler alert, people. What's happening is opportunity. Seriously, people. Nothing's happening anymore. We notice rates are flat now. Rates really aren't declining anymore. We're done. I'm along with the board. Like something. Like seriously, people. I'm at the point too where I don't even know what people are waiting for. People ask me all the time. So what are people waiting for? I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you. And I ask them all the time, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for this to drop. Guys, it's not going to drop. I'm waiting for prices to go down. Guys, prices aren't going down. So I don't know, right? I don't know.
I was talking about this with a friend of mine. yesterday, actually, my brother-in-law, and we were talking about the same thing, is like, what's it going to take for people to start getting motivated again? And I just simply said, it's going to be one person to start it, and everybody's probably going to follow. And I said, I always go back to COVID, where our economy was really turning upside down, and really that was a time where the world should have stopped economically, and that's where everything just sped up and led into increased rates and increased pricing, and there was that whole after effect. But prior to COVID, the economists, uh, leading governments were all saying the same thing, that the world is going to slow down, the world is going to shut down. There was a lot of small business that was suffering, but in a lot of ways, in our industries, it sped up. And why? And it just seemed like it was that domino effect, whereas one started and everybody just seemed to follow.
Well, I will also say that a lot of the underlying factor in that too was the amount of relief that the government gave to people and had no idea where that money was going to. And people took that said money and utilized that into reinvesting it into real estate.
Yeah.
So we will say that there was a lot of free money that was given to help people indulge themselves into real estate. And that is a massive factor in the right now, is that there is no relief being given to people, right? But we aren't in a situation where we need relief, right? That's also the thing. So we are in, I think the biggest thing is that we are probably in what real estate was just before I got into real estate. I'm going to say like maybe in what 2000, because I got into real estate 2006 or 2016, right? So my guess, so real estate prior to that, it really was about a 35-day cycle for detached homes, let's say, to stay on the market. Would you agree? I'm trying to think. I don't remember. I wasn't a realtor, right? I'm just going back to statistics that I've read and people that I've spoken to. It was about a 30 some odd day time on market for your single detached house. Well, when we look at the stats, single detached homes sold at 39 days. So we're not crazily out of that time market as we were in 2016. The difference is we're nine years past that date, and we've had a major world life event that skewed the way that we envision real estate operating. I still think that we are still in that mindset of when is COVID going to come back, and not COVID per se, but in terms of the turnover. Homes turned over in a week. Detached homes, they were listed. It went up on a Monday. You did showings to the open house on Saturday, and you took our offers the following Monday. And that house was sold.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're just reverting back. And I just wonder if this is a place where we've got to get comfortable again being back into, right? I don't know. I haven't experienced this. But again, this goes back to something that I was told when I first became a realtor, was it takes 10 years to say you've seen everything in this industry.
Mm.
I'm getting into my 10th year, and this is something I can say I've never seen. Right?
I've been doing this well over a decade now, and I do. And your memory gets a little bit clouded as you get older with age. But I remember, and we've talked about this before, the Fraser Valley condo market being similar, right?
Yeah.
Whereas prices were flat and or declining. I remember sitting down with a family and basically what the value that they bought it for was pretty much the same value that it was worth, and that's kind of what we're seeing in today's market with people that or even a little bit below than what they bought it for, depending on where they bought it. So I do remember a time, I don't know if it was to the same magnitude or even to the less magnitude, but again, I just go back to that. I do know that real estate is secular. I do know that it will rebound, it will correct, it always has. I can probably guarantee you that if you go back in those times where the market was softening and inventory was growing, these same conversations were being had as far as the world is, the sky is falling down, the housing market's going to crash. But at the end of the day, here, at least in Vancouver and the greater Vancouver area, our housing is always increasing, right? And I'm not going to say that's with every province that's out there. In many provinces, it does stay flat. But here, with what we're used to in Vancouver, Toronto, pretty much most major metropolitan cities, you're not really going to see a long-term decrease in housing.
No, I personally don't think you ever will. I agree. I don't think you ever will. And it's funny that you were saying that, talking about the safety of real estate as an investment, because there was an article I came out yesterday. I was talking about it with a friend of mine. We were discussing it. Is real estate still a safe place to park your money?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And of course, I said that's just a stupid clickbait article. Of course, it's still a safe place to park your money. That's a ridiculous. To me, that's irresponsible journalism. It's silly. Right?
I do want to throw something in there. I think it's a safe place to put your money if you're going to live in it.
Yeah.
I do think that there's other investment vehicles that may offer you maybe a greater return on investment.
Yep.
Than say purchasing an investment property. I still think it is a good investment vehicle, but we also now are coming down and reminding all the tax implication on those investment vehicles, right? And what that means and what that does to your return on investment. So yeah, like there was once in a day that I think property and real estate was a no-brainer. I just think the older that I get, I just see different investment opportunities, and I don't know if that's just with age or if that's just with the network that you're associated with. But as a primary residence or as a primary investment, to me that's just a no-brainer.
No, and it is true, and that's what I was going to say. I think what people have to do now is temper their expectations in terms of what their ROI is going to be off of a real estate investment. Right? There are now better vehicles that you can put your money into than real estate. But that's diversifying. I still believe that in terms of the foundation for your retirement, and we've spoken about it on previous pods, 1.4 million versus 11,900, right? As your future security as the solid foundation in your investment and of your primary living space. Yes, your home is one of the best investments you can possibly make. And then outside of that now, that's when you start diversifying your portfolio into other things now, right? Maybe not having 5 rental properties, because to your point, there's different tax implications now. They're not trying to make real estate investment as lucrative as it was now, because there is such a push to affordable housing and making housing affordable to everybody. They're trying to reduce, right, the cost of properties, right? So that right there does reduce your ROI. So now you can make more money somewhere else. So it is now, but like I was saying, now people just have to temper their expectations more on what that investment looks like, I think.
Yeah.
Right? But it's still, I think, one of the safest investments that you can possibly make. Now, are you going to make 25% or 15% or 10% now? Maybe not. But are you going to make 6, 8? For sure. Is that a great and is that a solid return on something in 25 years? 100%.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I mean. You just have to temper back your expectations on it now and know that yes, no, you're not. Maybe we're not going to get rich off of real estate anymore. Right? Maybe those days have changed. Canada, we started it. We really started. We saw it coming once we started making those changes to being able to flip homes, right? Taking away the ease of flipping properties. We saw that shift coming, right?
It's funny you say that. I'm doing the presentation on 2025 shadow flipping and assignment. So it'll be a good segue for a future pod.
No, it's good because if you have a corporation, you can still do it. They're just different. Now you have to be different in how you flip properties. It's hard to do it as just that single guy that just wants to buy a home, flip it, and what does that look like, right? But yeah. So that's the market, man. We're like I said, you got the board out begging people to buy now. We've got almost 11,000 properties. So like I said, the market is literally a showroom, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We thought we saw May being maybe the precursor to a busy June. It just wasn't as busy as what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, it's always, as I always say, it's always the calm before the storm. We just don't know when that storm
is coming.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So what do you got for us, man?
Yeah, I thought I would circle back to some real simple nuts and bolts and really simple math about how much somebody can afford and what that looks like, and really how easy it is to calculate when you are doing a home purchase. We use this simple math a lot when we do discovery calls with our clients, and we talk about, what is their income, what are their debts, how much do you have a down payment, and then we get a basic understanding as far as what they're able to buy in a real kind of short time frame, right? It's not exact math, but it gives an ish math to really tell people on what they can do. And how many times, Alistair, have you worked with a client that thinks they can buy a $1.3 million home
and they can afford a $700,000 townhome?
And they're coming back to say, hey, let's actually only 700,000, but I can afford it. I make a lot of money. But when it comes down to it is again, well, let's break it down to what that really means. And let's break it down to simple math. So I always say you can be that party trick where you can say, well, how much money do you earn? Bob.
Like your buddy there that could do the easy math that with back when you were a kid. What did he do? He used to do percentages and
A shout out to Alan Ozawa. I think I was in grade 5 or grade 6, and we are up in Aberdeen Mall in Kamloops, and we're walking through the men's area, and there's something for 30% off. I'm like, how much is 30% off of $70? He's like, oh, that's $21. I'm like, oh, geez, you're the smartest guy in the whole world. I'm like, and I was like, wow, this kid is brilliant. And he was that brilliant kid in school, but it was just simple math. 30% off of $70 is 7 times 3. It's 21. It's just $21 off. But again, it's these little things that people need to know, or at least have a rough understanding, that can basically just kind of not necessarily get them approved or get them to where they need to be, but to have an understanding to say, hey, if I make $21,000 or every $21,000 that I earn means I can borrow $100,000, right? It will give people an understanding, or even you, Alistair, when you're working with your clients, or even anybody that's in the financing side of things that listen to our pod. I know that there are many, But really, when it comes down to it, when we are working with a client and we are trying to figure out an ish value that they can buy, one of our very first questions is, well, how much money do you earn, right? And here is that Alan Ozawa-isms, and is what is 30% off of $70? Well, it's $21. And here's the thing on annual income. How much do you need to earn and pay tax on to borrow 100? It's anywhere from 20 to 22,000, depending on where rates are at the time, right? So I'm just going to go in the middle just to simplify it and say that every $21,000 that you earn and you pay tax on is going to allow you to borrow 100,000. Right?
Yeah.
Then it will come down to the conversation as far as, well, what are your debts? What are the payments? And every $600 payment you have will take away 100,000. Every $14,000 of credit card debt you have takes away 100,000. And every $14,000 of unsecured lines of credit will take away 100,000. So again, to really keep it simple, every $21,000 that you earn means you can borrow 100 grand.
Yep.
Every $600 payment you have takes away 100 grand.
Yep.
Every $14,000 owing on a credit card or a line of credit takes away 100 grand. So again, let's do an Alan Ozawa-ism. I hope Alan Ozawa is listening. Is if you make $100,000,
right?
How much can you borrow? Remember, it's 21,000 on 100. So if I take a calculator, I take 21,000. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say roughly $500,000 that a bank is going to let you borrow on 100 grand.
Right.
And I will ask, well, what kind of payments do you have? And most people will say, well, pretty much everybody seems to have a car payment.
Right.
And maybe your car payment is isn't $600. Maybe it's $300. Maybe it's $800. But remember, every $600 payment you have takes away 100. So hypothetically, say you have a car payment of $300,000.
Takes away 50.
$300 a month.
Takes away 50.
Takes away 50. Then we talk about credit cards. Well, how much credit card debt do you have? Well, I have $4,000 worth of credit card debt, right? So remember, every $14,000 of credit card debt you have takes away 100. So if you have $4,000 of credit card debt, that's going to be roughly, say, $25,000 of purchase power that's going to be taken away.
Right.
Do you have any unsecured lines of credit? Yes, I do. Well, how much do you owe on your unsecured line of credit? Well, I owe $10,000. Okay. Well, again, I know that every $14,000 you owe takes away 100. So if you owe 10, let's just say again, that's going to be, say, roughly about 75,000.
I was gonna say 80 grand. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we come down to just again getting the calculator. You're earning 100 grand. So again, you can borrow 500. You have a $300 car payment. That's going to take away 50,000.
Yeah.
You got $4,000 of credit cards. That's going to take away around 25 grand. And then you got about $10,000 of credit card debt. That's going to take away about 75,000. So now the bank is going to lend you about 350K.
50 grand.
Yep. Then we transition into the next question as well. How much do you have for a down payment? Throw me a number, Allister.
I've got 5%.
Well, 5% of what?
Oh, I've got 50 grand.
Okay. So now we will just take your down payment of 50 grand. We'll add it to what the bank can lend you, which is 350. And now guess what your purchase price is ish.
400-ish.
400-ish. Now, again, it gets a lot deeper into this conversation as far as, okay, well, where is your down payment coming from? How is your income earned? Are you self-employed? Are you employed? So there's a little bit further dialogue that goes into it. But again, just to keep things real simple, again, every $21,000 that you earn means you can borrow 100. Every $600 payment you have takes away 100. Every $14,000 of credit card debt you have or unsecured line of credit debt you have takes away 100. You then add in your down payment, and there gives you your purchase price ish.
What would rent classify under? Let's say you're renting, right? What would they put rent under?
So
How much would
say if you're renting is a liability. Now, if you're purchasing something, and I work with clients that that they're renting, but they actually want to buy an investment property, right? And the one thing that you have to understand is that, remember, every $600 payment of that rent takes away $100,000.
Right.
So again, let's use a 2-bedroom condo, 600 square feet in Vancouver. Remember how much?
$3,200, baby.
Right. So again, if you're purchasing something and renting for $3,200, remember every $600 takes away $100,000. So if you have a $3,200 rent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That takes away around $550,000 of your borrowing power.
Jeez. Yeah.
So again, a lot of people will say, well, they just don't realize how much it takes away, right?
That's wild. Yeah.
Now, a lot of times too, let's kind of be honest. Most people that are renting, typically they're going to be buying.
They're going to purchase.
Or they own a home, right?
Right. Yeah.
But also keep in mind your mortgage payment. Every $600 of that affects your borrowing power by $100,000 if you are buying an investment property.
Right. Yeah.
People will say, well, I'm going to rent it, so that must enable me to do what I want. Well, yeah, it allows you to increase your purchase power. But remember, if you're renting something out for $3,200 a month, you're buying it and you're going to rent it out for $3,200 a month. That's about $38,000 of income. The lender is not going to recognize that full rental income of $38,000. A real conservative number, and every lender is a little bit different, but they'll recognize perhaps half of that rental income.
Right, because they're planning on vacancy.
Right. Well, it's just policy. So again, to that $38,000, they might recognize about $19,000 of that income. Remember, every $21,000 means you can borrow 100. So that rental may push up your purchase power by about, say, 90 grand, 95,000. But also don't forget your mortgage payment that you have now in your primary residence is also
that is taken away. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
So again, it's really, really, really important for people to know that, to get a rough idea as far as what you're able to purchase if you either don't own a property and you're buying a primary residence, or if you're going to continue to rent and buy a rental property, or you own a property and now you want to buy a rental property. It does not take forever to give you an understanding if you're able to do it or not. Yeah. Within 7 to 10 minutes, by asking the right questions, is going to give that person an understanding if they can move forward with a deeper application, right?
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to, what is your income? What are you paying taxes on? What are your debts? How much do you have for a down payment? Will equal your purchase price.
See, and that's why I think this was so important to go over today, because we spoke about it last week. We talked about the steps through the Fraser Valley just earlier in the pod. We are literally at a point, people, where the rent to mortgage is basically flat. It's basically flat, if not cheaper in a whole set of areas now.
Yeah.
in a whole set of areas now. So now it's just we're dealing with common sense again, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Now to me, we're dealing with common sense. Now to me, if you're a renter, there is legitimately no sense to rent if you can afford to buy. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And if you can't afford to buy yet, then you best start making sure that you start having a plan. And the reason I say that is that the forecast does not project cheaper rents.
Yeah.
Okay. So there isn't a projected dip in rents coming, guys. Right? Those rents are going to start increasing. Right? So, or not start again, they're going to continue to increase. I beg your pardon. Right? They stayed they went up, I think, by or one. How much did it go by? Up. It was super nominal.
3%.
3%, right? Wasn't it 3%? Yeah. So, but again, it's going to creep up probably another 3% again next year, right?
Well, and depending on the province that you're in,
Sure.
here within BC, I believe that rental increases can't be more than 3%. I could be a little bit off in that number, but in Alberta, they can go up 100%.
100%, right? So that's my point. We're in a spot now, guys, again, where our rent is more expensive in most cases than it is to own. And we talked earlier, again, I'm going to pound this home for the rest of the year, I think. We've spoken about this in pod after pod. When you're 65, you own a home and you have a pension, you are worth $1.4 million. You are 65, you don't have a pension, and you don't own a home, you're worth $11,900. If you are 35 years old and you own a condo, you are worth $440,000. If you and have a job, if you have a job and rent at 35 years old, you are worth $44,000. Again, it does not make sense anymore. Does not make sense.
As you're saying this, a couple things are coming to my mind. I think a lot of us, we take a look on what we're hearing, and we take a look at, and we basically just move in face value of that and don't dig any deeper.
Right.
And I think what's actually going to turn this market is just exactly what you said, is people understanding that, hey, it might be cheaper for me to actually purchase something if I'm able to do so than to rent, right?
Yeah.
And as I was thinking about this, and I remember doing an infographic on the heyday of COVID when rates were super low. So buyers, people that were borrowing money just loved it. They were buying overinflated housing prices, right?
Yeah.
So sellers were just all over it. And then we came into a situation 3 years after where the market was correcting, the interest rates were higher, everybody was all freaked out. But when you put the two side by side, it was actually their mortgage payment was cheaper.
Yeah. At the higher rate, lower price.
That's right. But everybody was just all buying crazy because of the low rates and then the high prices. You know, like you said, houses were selling the day after of listing.
Crazy.
But when you take a look at that and you guys really, really think about it, back in the day when everybody was comfortable buying, right? Mm-hmm. They were buying because rates were low. They were buying when prices were high, and they were buying with no regard. They were just going for it, right?
Yeah.
To a time even now where the rates have stabilized, the pricing has stabilized. If you take that same house and that same rate in the COVID years to where they're at now, your mortgage payment is actually less.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
And now you throw the rent analogy in there. Again, I think this is the messaging that we need to really, really spend out there. And that's why I'm saying it. And this is, like I said, that domino effect. It takes one person to start something, be it good or bad.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to kind of follow shortly after.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think if we can start sending the message to say, hey, when you were comfortable buying And yes, rates were lower, but keep in mind the pricing was much higher. And let's take a look at that same house as of today. Your payment is now's a better time to buy when you're walking in fear a little bit.
100%, 100%. And the other thing too, we don't have the crystal ball. I'm not a mortgage professional, but I don't anticipate rates skyrocketing in the next couple of years either. Yeah. So you're buying now at, if you want to argue, a high rate, right? Let's just argue high rate, right? But when you come down to refinancing later on, the rates will more than likely be lower anyhow. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but more than likely they're not going to be higher. They're going to be probably a little bit lower.
And even if they're the same,
right,
your appreciation in the asset
in your property
is going to be more.
Thank you. And that's what I was going to get to. Yeah, the appreciation in your property.
There's a saying, Allister, and people really need to understand, poor economic news is great for interest rates.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So people are hesitating to buy because of the economic news, and that's fair.
Valid.
But also understand that poor economic news is a great indicator that your rates are going to remain where they are, or they're going to go lower. Are they going to go to COVID years lower? I don't think so. Are they going to drop a half a percent? Sure, maybe, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if people are on that train to say rates are going to rise, housing is going to crash, again, take a look at the history of housing. But the one thing that we need to know and really need to understand is poor economic news is great news for interest rates.
Exactly. Amen, brother. Amen. And the other thing, just to tie on with that, because Geoff, you were saying, waiting for people like the housing to crash, the prices to crash. If anything has told us, everybody, over this entire year, people will continue to list, the properties will continue to sit on the market, but the people aren't going to change their feeling on price.
Yeah.
It's only shaved nominally. All right. 1.2%. So people, the pricing is where it is at. If you actually look through the majority of the valley, the majority of the places are actually selling at an even place. It's the other places where you're just seeing anomaly drops. So,
and Allister, there may be opportunity where you're going to get a good deal because there's more inventory. Maybe someone's going through a life event, a divorce.
That's my point. Those anomaly drops.
But we were seeing those again, even in the highest of times.
Of highs.
We just didn't have the inventory, right? So yes, people, you may get a great deal out of there, but it's not because it's just because you have the opportunity, because there is the inventory, and perhaps someone is going through a life event like a divorce, a death, and they just need to get rid of it. So again, and they need to get rid of it because they know that there's a lot of inventory. They know that pricing is not kind of going anywhere. Right. And again, it would be no different if we had the hottest market in the world. There are opportunity out there, maybe more than before, just because of the amount of inventory, right? So
just don't let that be your precursor as to when you're going to buy. Don't wait for you to fall into that lottery. That, guys, at the end of the day, that's what you're waiting for. Is you're waiting for your lottery ticket to hit. And while you're waiting for your number to hit, eventually everything else starts getting purchased up. And then you're in a spot where you didn't anticipate you wanting to be. So again, guys, I got to keep saying the right time to buy is when you can, especially now. Just continue to speak to your professionals. If it's not Geoff and I, then get on the horn with your people and ask them why they haven't been explaining this stuff to you, and to start explaining it to you even better than we did, and give you an even better understanding on why you should get out there and start getting in the market. Because in all honesty, guys, it would be wrong of Geoff and I to continue to tell you to sit there and rent and throw your money away paying your landlord's life, when you can actually legitimately set up your financial security now just by finally getting in and buying a condo, right? You go from being worth $44,000 to being worth $440,000. I don't know about your math, people, but I like $440,000 better. But with that being said, everybody, thank you so much as always for sitting down and spending the time with us. I hope you guys took away some value. Jeff and I always say we are doubling down this year, especially on making sure you get the most valuable content we can, because as you can see, we are in a spot where your financial futures you can start writing your story literally today. That's the most amazing thing. You literally can start writing your financial future today. It's an amazing thing. So thank you all for listening to us and spending the time with us today. Continue to love us, continue to like us, continue to share us. Be back here with us next Thursday. We do have a guest with you, my man, David Marchiaro. He's an amazing property manager. He's going to be coming in and discussing some stuff in his world, so stay tuned for that. But most importantly, stay empowered, stay informed, and Jeff,
stay tuned.
That's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.